line song here. So just to further decode and just try to lay as many pieces out in the open as we can. I did hear a story relayed by Dennis Fetch of the Illuminatus Observer about the hidden code behind Hiram Abiff, behind the story about his the assault, and I don't think actually he went into the resurrection. Now, annoyingly enough, I have forgotten that whole thing, so I'm going to have to go back and listen to it again. But because we're talking about Solomon's Temple, and I'm trying to decode some more things about Solomon's Temple as we come down into these last days, because I think they're going to use Solomon's Temple in their final, one of their final shows here. We're going to look at these, and so I was going to show you the decodes that I have, at least on this name. The other thing I wanted to bring up, I don't think I brought it up in the last video, is the one where I showed you the skull and the Solomon's Temple, or the Solomon's Temple in Washington, D.C. I meant to bring up, and I forgot to bring up that this was, according to Mr. Kati and according to probably the academics, this was 1,000 years before Christ. And then this is kind of, this is sort of the Christ figure of the Freemasons. And I bet you that this is an anagram for some of their other, because Osiris is also, I believe, another Christ figure for them that they inherited from a symbolic story from the Egyptians. Well, what I want to say about this is that they did create English to be the coded language. However, we need, and I don't know if Mr. Kati has made this distinction, that we need to realize, because when I go back and I look at English translation of Sumerian, there is code in it, but it's not as heavy, and the valences are not perfect to the way it is in English. So to me, it looks like that language was not coded to work with Pythagorean gematria. And then they just brought it forward phonetically to English, and it's not as coded. So the codes that you see coming from a phonetic translation of ancient Sumerian would just be the naturally arising code. That would be kind of like what you naturally see when you look down at your odometer and you see a certain number, or a certain number has meaning to you, and then you see it. That would be a naturally arising code. So that's the distinction I want to make. But also I think that Mr. Kati may or may not, haven't watched enough of his videos, he may not be realizing that the Freemasons, when they invented English, because English is invented to work with Pythagorean gematria, and they had to perfect it for a while, that those Freemasons could have back-coded everything, because they made up all these words. So we have to look at every angle of where the distortion could have come from. I do think that he's right, that he's very into time travel, the engineering of situations due to time travel. I do believe that that exists, that I have seen evidence of that. But I don't think that, I think that for the whole Bible and prophecy hoax, you don't actually need time travel. You just need a long-lived strategy. And one of the things that Freemasons do, they pride themselves on being gentlemen in this way, is that they give you the code so that you can understand what's happening. And then if you fail to understand what's happening, it's really on you, according to them. But in the Bible, there really doesn't talk about time travel strategy. Now, I do think it does exist, but I don't think that you need that to understand this hoax, because they tell you that the Nephilim came, the Nephilim were long-lived, if not immortal. You know, they told you they were immortal, basically, and then the demigods, the ones that were the offspring of the Nephilim, were long-lived. So there's your clue. And then all you have to do after that is realize that the Nephilim are probably still with us, or else some of these long-lived people are with us, and they can create a strategy that is long enough that you don't need time travel to explain this hoax. So I just want to put that out there. So that was my 2 points. English could be back-coded. English could back-code older events that were not done in English. That's one of the points. And the other point is, I do believe that time travel agent and different fiascos are occurring. However, I don't think you need that to explain this hoax. All you need is the information that they gave you, and usually we find that they will give you the information that you need, and that's part of their rules. So, all right, let's go to Hiram Abiff. This is a coded name. I think if you read it backwards, it means some other different things, including pi is right here, Ra is right here, and Marduk Ra, which I believe is the Jesus character that we are still dealing with. And I believe that Marduk Ra actually is still on the earth, or came back in some form, or else they are expecting his return imminently. But he started the Vatican. He was not a god, but from the writings it seems like he did have good intentions. But anyway, he tried to start taking control of the earth in the age of the ram, because the Nephilim were going to take turns, and Enlil's turn was the age of the bull. And then Marduk Ra, his turn was supposed to be in the age of the ram. And I don't want to really get into this, but the way that you might think, like, okay, well, how did they decide who came next? Because Marduk Ra is not Enlil's son. There's a passage in the Zechariah Sitchin books that talks about where the gods themselves questioned who would come next, and Marduk Ra, he displayed his dominance in collapsing the wave. He basically said, I think if I remember it right, he said to the stars, move, and the stars did move. And then the gods decided, okay, well, or, the gods, the Nephilim decided, the Anunnaki decided, okay, you are able to collapse the wave in a more decisive manner than I am, or this court is, therefore you are dominant, and so you are next in line for the next age. I think that's how they did it. This comes back to the Kolel rule, the rule of one, where you collapse the wave. Now, oh my gosh, I still haven't gotten to this. I'm like going on and on. It's already 6 minutes. Okay. The other thing I want to say about Solomon's temple is that it's about collapsing the wave. It's about the power to collapse the wave. So you can collapse the wave without having any special tools in your own life. You can say, move to the mountain, move. You can create food like Joshua said you could. You should be able to walk on water if you have enough faith, those things. But it's a lot easier to collapse the wave if you use a mini black hole inside, some gold concentric boxes that have capacitors that amplify your, basically, they amplify your magnetics that you're putting out. When you collapse the wave, you're creating some kind of magnetics through your will that basically we don't understand. And I think this is an amplifier. So they talk about that the Ark of the Covenant amplifies the will of God. And, say Moses was a demigod, and say he was fulfilling the will of a higher God or a Nephilim, he would basically be like a relay antenna station in proximity to the Ark of the Covenant, which would collapse the wave out through all of the ley lines. And that's why the location of Solomon's temple is so important, that they're still fighting over it today. And this is why they want to destroy the temple. And this is why the Templars were sent down there to seize the Ark of the Covenant and to seize whatever tools they were using to manipulate these ley lines. Because basically, kind of the way the movies are, they had too much power in one place. And so this also has to do with the staff of Ra. I don't know if I can draw that. I think it goes like this. Wait, no. Yeah, it has a gazelle's head, and I think the gazelle is Reshar, and then it has this on the bottom. I've always wondered about this. I thought it was a snake holder, but then I saw some artwork recently that explained something to me, and I can't remember it right now. I think that when I get new information, I have to come across it a few times. Well, anyway, this is the staff of Ptah. Ptah is believed by some people to be Enki. Oops. Could equal Enki. I'm going to put a maybe here. Enki is the father of Marduk Ra. By Demunki. So this is Marduk Ra. And Marduk Ra, I believe, equals Zeus. And that's why when you say Amen in church, you are saluting Zeus or Marduk Ra, because he was the hidden one. Long story. What I want to say, though, is the staff of Ptah is, I believe, from some of my studying, that it had the ark, it had the center of the Ark of the Covenant in it, and Enki was able to hold this without getting fried. I think they needed to capture it, and the humans had to wear special clothes or they would die, being around this, like a mini black hole or whatever that was. And originally it was in the staff of Ptah. Then we see, I think it's in the book of Joshua where, or maybe it's Joshua holds the staff. Anyway, there's a crossing of the Red Sea having to do with the staff. Oh, maybe that was Moses. And before that, they had crossed the Red Sea carrying the Ark of the Covenant. So they basically used the Ark of the Covenant in the form of the staff and in the form of the Ark to make the water dry so they could cross the sea. Sorry, I don't have any references on that. I'm just not really good at memorizing those references. But my main point here is there's some kind of a power implement tool that is inside the Ark of the Covenant, that was inside the staff of Ptah, it was inside the staff of Moses, and then later they had to put it in this concentric, I think they use this to amplify its power, and it has to do with the purpose of this is to collapse the wave according to the will of possibly Marduk Ra or whoever's in charge. Well, this cuts to the core. A lot of people talk about the gematria code, and they talk about all of the dark magic that they're doing, but they don't really talk about why. This is the why. They are amplifying their ability to collapse the wave. So they're using ley lines, they're using capacitors, probably some secret technology. For example, a king used to wear a golden crown, and it wasn't just a piece of metal. It was it was made out of gold for a reason, and it was a tuned object to amplify his thought waves. And he was, of course, then, blessed and anointed and controlled by the Nephilim, so to make sure that his thought waves were in alignment with the Nephilim. But this crown that he wore actually caused his inner court to obey him, and when he spoke, his words were more powerful than a regular speaker, because they understood the geometry of the head, they understood the geometry of the skull, they understood the pineal gland, and they created this as an amplifier of the thought forms of the king. So these are all tools to amplify the will to collapse the wave. All right, here we go. Hiram Abiff. So I'm not going to go into the anagrams and those kind of things here, except for just to point out Pi, Ra, the age of the ram, and there's a few things over here, but let's look at this first. So this is 17, as we know, and this is the Q, and this is what I've told you, is that the Q interrupts phi. And that is the whole idea of how, of mathematically, of how the Colel rule works, of how one person can interrupt destiny. Phi, I think, would be destiny, and pi would be the individual ability to collapse the wave. Then in the center we have Ra, which the digital root of that is a 9. And then over here we have Ma, which is a 14, and it's the second part of Ram. Well, anyway, Ram would be, well, if you add it this way before you take the digital root, it's 32. And this is a number mirror. They almost always have their 14 next to their 14 and their 18 next to a 9. And the reason why is because what they want, it's like a, I don't have a word for this yet, but it's like a process mirror, where first it's a 32 and then it's also the 23. This is the up and the down pentacle. If this is your first video with me, hang in there. The details are going to start to pile up and you'll start to understand what I'm talking about. But what I mean by the up and down pentacle is that the 32 has the 3 parts of the pentacle on top and the 2 on the bottom, because it's read from left to right. And this is left to right too. This would be the downward pentacle because it has the 2 on the top and the 3 below. So this is the evolving man, using the elements to evolve and go up, and this is the de-evolving or the falling man. So this Ram right here integrates both ideas, the completion, which is 9, the completion of the 23, and the completion of the 32. I don't know if they achieved that in the age of the Ram. Maybe they did. Well, so on this side, the 9 and the 23 add to be a, the 9 and the 14 add to be a 23. So we have the 923, and we have, then if you add this to the 17, you have the 26. This number is the number that's very important in Washington, D.C. right now, and I've just put up a couple videos recently called The Pope in Washington, D.C., where I review this. This is the meridian that from the Capitol, I'll just put C for Capitol building, which is the owl, and today I'm putting up a video about Solomon's Temple, and this would be the Holy of Holies, the way it would lay down on this meridian. And over here, first of all, there's the Washington Monument, and then you go farther, and then there's the Lincoln Memorial. And if you go all the way out, it goes to Mexico, and there's some strange numbers. I have a video on that. Well, then this way, and I believe yesterday showed this is the bottom of the cross. Then this way we have the 0 and the 360 degrees. This is both. They're both right there. So this number is not only, it says it's separate September 26, which is 3 days later from 923. So if they were planning some kind of an event on 923, they could plan some other kind of miraculous event on 926, like a miraculous recovery or a miracle happens, and then the Pope recovers from whatever happens here, and then he goes to Philadelphia. Everybody, believes in him because of this miracle that happened, and then he announces the coming of the Savior. Everyone bows down and accepts their chip or something like that. Well, so this number, this is the 9 of Ra right next to the pi, and it adds to be the 26. It adds to be the 926. And this is important because it's mirrored here, but not only that, on the calendar, they also made sure this is a good number, because I bet you pi is hidden in this calendar, in the workings of this calendar, especially this day. I'll have to kind of see if I can figure that out. The 926 is the 269th day of the year, and that doesn't happen very often where those numbers line up like that. So that also shows you that this is a special number. This is 3 days more than the gestation. The official gestation number is 266, which is the 923. That's this one. This is the 266th day. We have the 266th Pope. Everybody probably knows that. coming here to this place on the 266th day. He's going to be at the White House. This is where the White House is. Over here is the Jefferson Memorial. Really sorry about my terrible map. But the other thing I want to say is this is FBI. Which kind of brings us to our Biff. Okay, so this was a simple gematria. It's a simple gematria that I work into a valence code. One more thing to say about this. If you take the 17 and the 14 and add them, that's 31. This is the number of the dome. This is why we have domes on all of our Capitol buildings. This is why in my intro or my outro, can't remember which now, Herod has a coin of a flying dome. You know, it's got these are called rainbow serpents that come off the side. I believe that in the old days, the dome flew and these were like an energy thing. And then when it landed, these became energy pillars. And that's why we have pillars on our state buildings. And then when the Nephilim would land, this would be like their office or their, you know, they probably set up some tents around here or have some other temporary buildings, and this would be where they would rule from. And that's why our government buildings are like this. This is the number of the dome. I believe also it's the shape of our world. And anyway, the reason why 31 is the number of the dome is because the digital root of that is 4. And that's a D. And that's the last letter of God. And if you tip it backwards, it's a dome. All right. That probably sounds weird if that's your first video. But anyway, if this is your first video, thank you for watching and just hang in there with me. I'm not crazy. I just don't have enough paper here, and the ideas come quickly. So that's what that is. Okay, now we're going to go to the 296 over here in the middle of a Biff. So as you can see, we have a central core and we have an outer core, the Biff. Every movie that you see that has some guy named Biff, that's code for this guy. And it's also code for all these things. It's not just some dumb guy. All right, so I wrote FBI here. Let's look at this. So we have a 9 and a 12. And then the 12 plus the 9 is their favorite. This is one of their favorite numbers. I don't have enough paper left. The 12 plus the 9 is 21. And this is one of their favorite mirrors because it has to do with the star matrix structure of our world, of our holographic quantum mechanic frequency world. So this is significant. The 12th prime is 37 and the 21st prime is 73. And I've talked about this before. I don't think I've done a special video just on this. Maybe I have, but I just want to refer to this because that's what they're talking about right here with the ABI. Also, so that's the 21. So when you add this, so this is a 3 and then this is also a 3. So it's almost like a 33-degree Mason, but it's brought through two additions. The face, actually one addition, but the face of the simple gematria, and then the second, the digital root of the addition. And I don't have a word for that, but they use this a lot, where it goes through a mathematical process, and it's almost like a number sentence goes this way, but then the number sentence this is a number sentence through time. First you do this, then you do this, and it has a code that comes forward through time. In this case, it is a 33 code from the 12 and the 21. And I just saw this yesterday in a gematria having to do with things I was covering yesterday. Now I can't remember what it was. But then this is another code through time. This is a 1010, which is raw, because that's 18-1, and that's a 19, which equals a 10, which equals X. And whenever you see these X's, especially two of them, that is a sign of Ra, who I have come to believe is the Egyptian version of Adam. Different from Marduk Ra, he just took it as a title. All right, over here we have a 6-6. So over here we have a 3-3 going through time. But if you look at this on the surface, it's a 3-9-6, and that is the it's a lot of stuff, but it's what Tesla says is the secret of the universe. 3, 6, and 9 is the secret of the universe. Well, also over here, so we have a 12 that is I just don't have the words for this. We have a 12 that is just laid flat on the simple gematria, the 1 and the 2, and then over here we have a 12 that's made up of 2 6s. So you can see how perfectly they feel like they did this. So this also adds over here to a 12 and a 21. Okay, well anyway, so this 12 plus this 3 equals a 15, which equals another 6. But the 15 is an O, so just to keep that in mind. The outer valence is an O, and this is an I. O and I. And then the 12 is the L. So this is the symbolism here. The oil always symbolizes the level of consciousness. All right. So you can pull out, this isn't the only word that you can pull out here. You can pull out more words. You could probably pull out a lot of words out of just this. Now, I've only shown you, on the bottom half, I showed you the simple gematria. These are simple gematria valence codes, and they go through, I've done a few variations for you. There's cores, there's valences, and we've brought them through time. I'm going to think of some kind of a word to describe the time progression of these mirrors. Well, on the top, we're going to use a code that I call a menorah code. In the book I've been showing you called Pi in the Alphabet, he calls it an English gematria, but I think that's confusing because it's a menorah shape. You have to go to my back to the books about this to see the menorah shape, because I actually don't use a menorah shape anymore. You could, if you flattened all these out and you drew a menorah here, it would show you how this code works. But this is easier for me to remember. So this is the code that I'm using for the top half here. Where'd it go? Oh, here we are. And so I'm going to draw a little menorah here to remind you that's what it is. So actually, because this is such a mess, I'm going to take this over here. So we'll just draw this again. Let me pause it. I'll get it all drawn out. So I'll come on, camera, focus. I'll bring this to the light a little better, and it focuses better. Okay, so H. I wanted to do this on camera because it helps you remember. It helps me remember. When I see audio visual, it sticks better. So H is the 6 and the U, and I remember this as the human. This is Gott in German, human, right below there. So there's the 6. The 5 is on both sides. There's 4 letters of 5, so it's IV and ER. You could think of this as ultraviolet, or I guess that it's not a UV, it's an IV. Well, oh my gosh, I could just go on and on. Okay, I'm not going to tell you all the associations. It's just going to be a 5. I kind of want to help you remember this so that you can start to do this on your own. But the way that I remember it is just by doing it a bunch of times. So R is a 5 because it's an ER and an IV. This is a 1. The M is a 1 because that's on the other end of this. We have the M and the A on the bottom of the triangle or the pyramid, however you want to think of it. So this is a 1 and a 2 and a 5, and then on this side is another 6, I think of that as a fish. So we have a 5 and a 5 and a 5. All right, so in the center, again, yeah, sorry, I had to check this. Okay, so in the center we have a 5. And then over here, first of all, leave it undeclined. Why do I say that word? Undigital rooted. It's because that's awkward. This turns to an 11, and this turns to a 2. But before that happens, we can notice that this is a 16. If we do the valence code, let me just make sure that we're clear that we're in the menorah gematria now. There's 3 of those. This is a Freemason number, but it also is a 16, which, if you take this back to the gematria, is a P. And then over here is an 11 again. Oh, sorry, I did this. Let's do this way. Sorry, let's make this one a 7. Getting ahead of myself. This one is a 7. Let's draw an arrow here. Okay, then this one is the 16. So we have a G and a P. And then all of this adds together to be an 18, which is Ra. Oh no, it's an R, sorry. So this is a manifestation. Now when I bring this back to this letter, I'm bringing it back in the simple gematria, the placement code, the regular placement code of the alphabet. And I've done this a few times, and I found out that it does matter. Now this next one, let's see, I just want to make sure if I didn't miss anything. So here we have a 7. The main thing here, I think, in this word is the 711 code. And then this one is not only the 11, but it's also pi, because that's what HI is, because this is a P in Greek. And this is also Hawaii, the 50th state, the last state of the Union. So I think the main message here is that this is a 7 and 11, because this is a sacred geometry having to do with the pyramids and the consciousness of man. But there's also a few other things here that are here. If we take the 7 and 11 and we look at those letters, we bring them back through the simple gematria placement code. In this is pi, but it's 11, and it's also a K. And I believe this refers to the ark. I can't tell how long this video is now because I've paused it so many times. So the ark is Ra plus the K, which is 11, but so for one thing, the K is the gateway. But it's also the ark. I mean, it's also a vessel. It's like a vessel on the ocean, and you knock it back, and this basically looks like the coat of arms of Paris, and they worship Isis, Inanna, Ishtar, Marie, goddess of the heavens, and the heavens are water. So that is also here. So in this case, we have a 7 and 11. So this G, it would be like this, kind of like a hieroglyph, where the god, or Ra, is in the ark. Now, you might ask, okay, so what's the ark? Well, it's the vessel. It's your body. There's a lot of symbolism about your body being a ham, Abraham, And this equals in English gematria a 22. A car equals 22. It talks a lot about your body being a vessel, this being a god of hosts, that the god of hosts actually inhabits your body, much in the same way that a parasite inhabits you. And I do have a video on parasites because I don't think this is our natural design. Back in the early days of the earth, when we had a lot more oxygen, we were able to fight off parasites better. And we are falling behind now because of social engineering, toxins, and lack of oxygen. We are not meant to be a parasite vehicle. But there's a lot of symbolism that shows that our bodies, Stargate is also another one that shows that our bodies are inhabited by basically serpent worm type of things. And I know it's really nasty. And even for like somebody who's into Decode, this could be a step where you're like, okay, she's gone too far now. Well, before you think that, just hang on a second, hold on. Before you go, before you click stop, think about why you worm your dogs and we don't worm ourselves. Why and then you'll realize that the worms are protected by mainstream medicine. They will do everything else to you in the hospital except for worm you. And so if you were relaxed now after hearing that, like, okay, she might be onto something, go see my parasite videos, because this is important for your very personal health and for your family, actually. You should not be a vehicle. And that's why they have these vehicles and these ham words as the lowest of the low. And even in this gematria, even in this menorah gematria, the L, where's the L? The L is a 2 and the O is a 2. So even there, they tell you that it's the lowest of the low. You are basically a vehicle for the god of hosts. So when he has his ark, what they mean is, here's what I think the big picture is for them. The God in the ark. Oh my gosh, we're still on this word. No, we're on this. I don't remember what word we're on. Okay, well anyway, the God in the ark. When the Nephilim fell here, they got stuck in our quantum frequency generator, and the reason why they got stuck is because they were evil. And they basically, the only way to get out is to evolve, because we're in quarantine right here. The only way to get out is to evolve, so that once you get on the other side, once you get out here, you're not dangerous. Well, that remains to be seen, because the fourth dimension, well, oh my gosh, I don't want to get into dimensions. Anyway, this dome goes up. The fifth dimension, everybody's talking about we're going to get to the fifth dimension and the sixth dimension. That is still inside the dome. The sixth and the fifth and the fourth are still inside the dome. They're a better place than the third, though. You won't be out of the dome until you're to the ninth. And this is why we have the 6-9 symbolism of the word free. And this is why this is phi. Okay, hang in there with me. I'm getting back to this. Okay, so what they needed to do, they needed a vessel. They need an ark to get out. So I think they're using us as an ark. And the idea about this coming up, about the mixing of our DNA with their DNA, the 23 plus the 23 equals the 46, and the hybridization of the alien race, this whole idea is to build an ark for them, because they actually need our DNA, because their DNA is too it's too heartless. They don't have enough ethics. They don't have any caring. They're actually a different species than we are. And this is why humans can't understand that. And this is why people post on Facebook, why do they do this when people are starving? Why are we building airplanes? And the reason why people post that is because they think these guys are human. They're not human. They're Nephilim. And some of them are fallen and some of them are not fallen. Well, anyway, so they're trying to create an ark, but the ark is actually you. Now, if you see this movie Home, it talks about these people who don't have a home and they want to be on earth, and they have little rams, little ram horn, little horns on their heads like that. So there are threads of this theory everywhere. Now, just to throw it out, because I know that a lot of people like to do enemy patterning, and the Christian church teaches you to do enemy patterning. I just want to tell you that some of these Nephilim are bad and some of them are not bad. But they are all fallen. All of them are fallen, but some of them are really evil and some of them are not evil. Also, there are people of this race, probably, I'm thinking this is a Pleiadian race, that did not fall. And most of them are good, although I'm not going to paint them with a broad brush either. Some of them might not be good. So I think we need to take the brainwashing that's been laid into us by the Vatican that separates us from our brother and sister, separates religions and races, and causes judging, and just tend to take the enemy patterning and wad it up in a little ball and set it on the shelf. And when you have the urge to demonize something, to say they're bad, they're wrong, because for one thing they're using our bodies as hosts, which is very irritating and annoying. Just notice that comes from enemy patterning, which is part of the brainwashing, which means that's what you're supposed to do, because it'll hold you in the pattern. If you lower your vibration to the enemy patterning, you're stuck in the pattern here. This might be the longest decode ever of a single word. Okay, did we finish this word now? Okay, so over here on Abiff. Oh yes, I showed you the 269, the 269, because this is a 2 in the this is the English gematria. This is the menorah gematria here. 2, 9, 6. This is an anagram again of the meridian that I was talking about, that I laid the Solomon's Temple on. Okay, well anyway, in the center we have a 5. I'm going to say that whenever there's just a 5, I'm just going to put an upright star here. On this side we have the 6 and the 5, which is an 11. On this side we have I'll put the 12, and then I'm going to digital root to a 3. This is a digital root to a 2. Oh, I forgot to mention something else. Oh no, so okay, so anyway, this pi right here, 6/5 times phi squared approximates pi, and that's why they did this with the 6 and the 5, and that's the 6 and the 5 is also active over wait, this is just yeah, sorry, accidentally wrote a 5 there. It's also active here in the if, and that's why this word is chosen to play the role that it does. Okay, so I did this wrong. This is a 12, and this is, I'm going to leave it as a 12 first. Oh no, I'm not. I'm going to put a 3 here. So this again, it does the same thing as over here, where you have the 1 and the 2 going to the 12 in the valence codes. In the valence fields here. The center is phi. So this is an 8, and this is a 17. Whoops, now I can't even write. Okay, 17. And then this is a 25 over here. And 25 equals pi in the simple gematria. So this is the Trinity of Sons. The AB actually goes this way. It's like a chalice in the sky. And we're coming up on a date very soon, 9/15, very soon. And I've talked about this before. And supposedly, if you look east at the Washington Monument, There's a 33-degree separation, so I didn't do this to scale. 33-degree separation between the tip from this point, from a certain geometric point, and I'm not sure exactly where it is. I think it's on this corner of this body of water on this side. This would be the Lincoln Memorial side, and this would be the Capitol building side. That body of water goes that way, right? Anyway, so you stand here, and if you have your Freemason compass, 33 degrees up is the Star of Ra, and that is the 5-pointed star. These are the Trinity of Suns. This is the Pleiadian side of the sun that has seven other stars around it, and I'm not sure what that one is. Oh, the other thing is that on this day, 9/15, there is an alignment on the eastern horizon, as when, I'll just draw the horizon right here, that Orion is rising at a certain time, and it is lining up with this. And I don't think it's actually coming to a full vertical, but you can see the phallus symbolism here. This has to do with the idea of Nut. Geb, the earth god fertilizing Nut, the heaven goddess, which is these three stars. And so these three suns, which I believe is the origin of our mixed DNA on Earth, having to do with the experiment that we're doing here on Earth. Oh my gosh, boy, I really talked forever on this one. I don't know if I got everything here, but I'm gonna let it go for now. All right, love you guys. Thanks for listening. I hope that was weird and strange and wonderful. Have a good day. Talk to you soon.